Hello, welcome to the December 11th Counselor Connect session, which is Classroom to Career at Berry Global. We are really excited to have three people joining us, and I will let them introduce themselves, but really happy to have you here. As a reminder, we will be recording this session and it will be posted for you if you need to go back and access any of the information or watch it again or even share it with your colleagues. You can do that. It will be posted in our library. The slide deck is available. I will go ahead and post that in the chat here in just a second. And feel free to ask any questions. You can post them to the chat, and our panelists will either respond as they go, or at the end they'll have some time to answer some questions as well. So with that, I will hand it over to the team.
Thank you, Amanda. And then, as questions come up and as we're going, so if someone wants to jump in and let us know what those questions are, we won't be monitoring the chat. But we're all pretty informal, so you will not offend us by jumping in and interrupting. Please do so. We'll introduce ourselves first, and we'll kind of give an overview, and then I'll let Brandon and Robin kind of go through how we got to where we are today. I am BJ Watts. I'm the Executive Director of Opt-in in the Evansville Vanderburgh School Corporation.
Hi, Robin Wipkenberg. I work with BJ with Opt-in, Career and Technical Education. I'm a counselor. I've been a school counselor for 25 years or so. So that's what I bring to this team.
Brandon Saylor with Berry Global, my HR manager. I've been in the HR field for over 10 years, and I've worked with BJ and Robin here in a partnership for probably over 3 years now personally.
Yep. So Berry Link, which is what we're here to talk about today, is a program that we serve juniors and seniors. I'm just going to give like a 20,000 foot view here, and then we'll get into specifics. It is in the mornings, we have juniors doing curriculum only, doing the students. It's the next level program of study following those courses. And we started this year as our first year. So we only have juniors this year. And next year we will have a morning cohort of juniors and an afternoon cohort of seniors. That morning cohort is curriculum only always. And then they will finish their next level program of study. And then as seniors, they will come in and they will actually work and do a rotation at Berry Global. I would love to kind of get to how we got to this program. Berry Global is one of the largest employers in Evansville and Southern Indiana. And we have a partnership with them where they came to us in 2018 and said, hey, we need forklift drivers. And we said, okay, we can give you a space and we can bring you students, but you need to write the curriculum, you have to create the courses, you teach the class. And they did that, and it was beyond successful. We're in year 6 of that now. And Berry's retention rate is about 80% on those students. So as we're looking at that, but it was a small number. Year 1, we had 8 students. I think our biggest cohort's probably in that 30 or 40 range. But it was, when we saw the success, I was like, okay, how can we scale this into something else at Berry? Because there's so many opportunities there. So that's when we reached out to Berry, probably 2 years ago.
At least 2 years. It may have been a little over. We started meeting.
So if you are working towards building something like this, please know that it does not go quick. I'm not going to steal Robin's thunder for sure, because she will have the best line of this podcast, I assure you.
Well, I'll just say it. Sometimes we left meetings and we would say, I think they're trying to break up with us, because we would run into a speed bump, some barrier that was a hurdle. We had to figure out how to get over it. And we knew that you guys were back talking like, how do we work this out? And we would say, we can't let them break up with us. So we'd go in the next time and we'd start talking again. So
yeah, we had to pump the brakes a few times just to.
But I think in that process, we get to know each other, right?
Yeah,
and so
absolutely.
Then we start to have an element of trust, an element of transparency, and we're just very honest with each other about where we're having some issues and what we can do.
And I think that's one of the keys. Like as these two get into kind of how this happens, you will see that there's very difficult conversations that have to happen. And radical candor is the word that my boss always uses. And that's what you have to have. I mean, this is exactly, we have non-negotiables. Berry Global has non-negotiables. What are those? And we can work through everything else in our MOU. But when you talk about embedding a program and putting children into a facility, that brings about an entire new set of challenges and barriers. So if we can, so we work through this in that 2 to 3 year range. And I'll kick it to Robin here and with this one, we finally land, I believe it would have been 1st of May, the 1st of May this year, which we understand there's 3 weeks of school left.
Any school counselors out there right now are understanding.
Understanding what May is.
Yeah.
And Barry says, we're in, let's go. So that is when I get a little, I'm like, oh my God, we can't tell them no, but we have to, this is going to be tough. So Robin said, let's go. And I'll let her kind of get through what May looked like for her and other counselors.
Well, it wasn't, it wasn't on our initial timeline for the first year because we had to work through some other things. So when May happened and you guys said, we are ready to go, we can get this done. And so what I did was I just started calling. In our district, we have 6 high schools, and I just started calling my counselor friends, the people I knew at all the high schools. I work with them, and started letting them know what we had available for them as an opportunity, knowing that they were going to need to pull together a group of students that might want to interview, because that's another component that we'll talk about, the interview part. So not only was I asking them to come up with some lists of students that with interest, but they actually had to get them to us for interviewing too at Berry. So, but all of them knew this was a great opportunity, and all were happy to help out. And I think we ended up with over 60 students interviewing. So we were pretty happy with that turnout. This year will be a lot different because we're starting earlier, obviously.
And Robin, for those that don't know, kind of give a little bit of background on the EVSC, like who we are, where we are, student population, all of that.
The EVSC, we're considered an urban school district, and we do have the opportunity to have students can apply to a career and technical center with over 23 programs, one of which is advanced manufacturing. So Berry does take some of those students in for internships, but we were looking at other opportunities for our kids because so that is a consortium where not just our schools, but all of the counties around us in our CTE district can apply and get those spots. So we were looking for opportunities for our EVSC students to expand those. And, maybe students that were on waiting lists at the Career and Tech Center, they knew they wanted to do something different, something with their hands. And I really think we hit the sweet spot with that based on the group of kids we ended up with.
And I think that the size of where we started to scale from is important also. I mean, we're the 3rd largest district in the state of Indiana. We're 23,000 students, but we began this program with 25 students. So that's important to know. You're not going to start with 500 students or even if you have that many seniors. So it's important to start with kind of what fits for both you and the industry partner. I would love for Brandon to get into who Berry is.
Sure. Yeah, so Berry Global, we're the world's largest plastics packaging company. We have over 47,000 employees, over 250 locations worldwide. We produce over 100,000 different items. Fortune 300 company. At my facility here in Evansville, we have several facilities here in Evansville, but my facility where we host the Berry Link program where the students attend class, it's about 1 million square foot facility under roof where we house our printing operations and then our logistics operations as well. So product storage and shipping. And, we've been at this facility for about 10 years. It's just outside of the Evansville Regional Airport, if you're familiar where that's at. But that to your point, BJ, trying to understand how we could bring this program on board to our site where we have 600 employees, and not disrupt, business operations, but also work with EVSC on this exciting initiative was definitely going to be a challenge. But I'm so glad we were able to, figure it out and get it in place for this year.
Are you allowed to share some of the products that come off that come off of the lines that you guys make? Because I think they're really recognizable probably to some people that are sitting out there.
So we do a lot for the dairy industry at my facility. So a lot of things that you'll find in your grocer's freezer, your refrigerator at home, your Dean's French onion dips, your sour creams, through Daisy Friendly Farms. You'll find that at all the locations. A lot of your cereal cups that you can grab on the go, or you might see in student cafeterias. We do a lot for Starbucks, Wendy's, Taco Bell. We also have a really close partnership with McDonald's, and we we print the McPails that you see around Halloween time. So a lot of exciting products that are easily recognizable for sure.
So as we get into this program, I would love for Robin to kind of jump into what recruitment looked like. And you reach out to the counselors the first week of May.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of run us through what that conversation went into when we decide, okay, we're going to run the program. We have year one set. What does that initial recruitment look like? How do we educate students? How do we educate parents? What did that look like from the counselor side?
So my conversation with them was I had been talking about this preliminarily, so they had some heads up that it was coming, but they were a little surprised when all of a sudden I was like, "It's go time. We're ready. We're ready for some students." And
We're interviewing next
we're
week.
interviewing next week. We're gonna, and again, that is not how it's happening this year, but that was the origin story of this. We were looking for a student that was interested in working in a manufacturing environment. They were interested in learning more about the opportunities in manufacturing, a lot of which students don't realize. When you think of manufacturing, sometimes you get a picture in your head of what that might be. And so it was explaining to them what the different opportunities were going to be. This wasn't just, we weren't training them just to be an operator on the line. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with operations, but that's not, we wanted them to have more of a robust experience. We wanted them to learn about all of the opportunities, knowing that Berry, students that have graduated from the EVSC have gone on to Berry, and they provide things like tuition reimbursement. So we wanted to make sure our students going into this program knew that they were going to have opportunities above and beyond production operators. So I said they were going to do work in maintenance, printing, the ink lab, production operator, quality assurance. They were going to get experience in all of those different areas. So this was going to be something different for them. Half their day would be at their home school, taking English, math, history, and science. And then they were going to get on a bus, and we were going to take them out to the Berry Airport facility, and they were going to have classroom work their first year, interspersed with employees from Berry, which we could talk about that on their schedule. We decided to run this through Next Level Program of Studies. And we'll talk, okay, there are the slides up. We decided to go with the supply chain and logistics pathway. We all sat at the table, Berry and the EVSC, deciding what the best pathway would be. We had some conversations with Tony Harl as well. When we landed on supply chain, advanced manufacturing is already done at our Career and Tech Center. And like I said, Berry does get some interns from that and apprentices. And the standards of that just didn't align with what we wanted to do. So we found that supply chain and logistics was the best fit. We went with principles of business management, supply chain management, and logistics, which is as it's written. We did talk with Tony Harl and got the okay if we needed to run it with principles of advanced manufacturing. So we could play around with that a little bit. But in the end, we decided to go with business management. I feel like it was a conversation with Berry, feeling like they liked the business component. So that's what we went with. And then senior year, The students will come out in the afternoon and there will be pay involved. It's a year-long paid work-based learning experience capstone. And again, we're doing that rotation piece where they're not just working on the line. That'll be one component of it, but then they're also going to learn about how to mix the ink, how to fix the equipment and maintain the equipment, quality assurance, how to make sure the product coming out is where it needs to be, et cetera. I mean, we listed those things. There's so many more things that they learn, I think, while they're there, that it's hard to really put it all in a little box, because Barry's been so great with their employees coming in to teach our students things. Forklift is also on there. I don't think we included that, but they also are doing that.
So working through that course selection was kind of our K-12 barrier. Brandon, when you go to run things up the chain at Berry Global and say, I would love to spend a bunch of money and build the classroom inside of our facility, whereas real estate's at a premium.
Yeah.
If you could talk maybe the two warehouse situation there and how big they are. And then I also, when we get that finished, I want to bring in some 16 and 17-year-olds, and we're going to teach them about manufacturing here. So how did those initial conversations go to get to where we landed today?
Yeah. So, from day one, obviously my director was heavily involved, Mary Reese. And, all of the executive group with Barry were pretty well in from day one. It was just, to your point, how do we get it across the finish line? And obviously, there's CapExes involved and things to get, secure the financial aspect that we need to secure a classroom. And to your point, BJ, where we're going to put this, because space is a prime asset, right? When you need every square inch to house and produce
And the warehouse that we're in is how large?
It's 1 million square foot under roof. Yeah.
And you just built another one beside it.
And we just across the parking lot built a 300,000 square foot warehouse as well. Yes. So, of course, all of that's already predetermined and spoken for way in advance. So, it was trying to figure out where could we house this? If we could get the funding for this and get it across the finish line, where could we put this? So luckily, again, working with the executive group and getting approval and funding, we were able to move around some of the logistical space where we house some of the product and build a classroom that's heated and cooled and right outside of our
And
employee
they're
break
actually
room.
looking at the classroom right now
Okay,
on
yeah,
the shared.
Yeah.
That's from our open house, so there's parents in there as well, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, having it right next to, where our employees are working, right next to our break room, that kind of helps to get them exposed to the core concepts and mingling with some of the employees and seeing what they're doing, without actually being out on the floor, because, junior year and they're in the classroom for year one. So it was certainly exciting to work on.
So that's one of my favorite parts of this. I do want to go back to the fact that how you, Mary, Scott, Kaylee, like you all owned this.
Mhm.
And I think that is important. Like, if that's one piece of advice I could give to anyone that wants to look at this, you have to find a champion within your industry partner.
Right.
And Mary was definitely our champion at first. She had gone, I think, just to a little bit more of the origin story, we have another program in town called RAMP. And RAMP is fully embedded at another company, AmeriQual. And Mary was on that original team that went down to Augusta, Georgia, because we took some components of that into our RAMP program. Now, RAMP is a full day. It's a different demographic, I guess, of student, or a different type of student. We're looking more at credit recovery, credit poor students for that program. But Mary showed interest way back then of going down there. And then always, I think that planted the seed that maybe this was something that Barry might be interested in. And so that's where the forklift came from. Then from the forklift, now we have that embedded classroom half-day program. So she was sort of our champion, I think, throughout, and wanting to have it down at the corporate location, because there are several locations here in Evansville. And then it was finally when we went into the logistics, supply chain logistics
Mhm.
piece of it, which is out at the airport warehouse, which is a bigger facility. There's
Right.
a little bit more room, and you could really imagine that being where the classroom went.
Yep. And, it's also a little bit closer to the Southern Indiana Career Technical Center where, the students are transported from centrally. So that was
Yeah.
also a big benefit.
That was one of the things for us. So, I mean, when we have this champion that gets us across the finish line, because we heard no on some things, I'm certain that you heard no on some things, but you just still to continue to push to say, okay. And I guess we should have started with, at the core of all of this conversation had to be what is best for students, which is new for Barry.
Mhm.
Not that you're not the most, incredibly civic minded, you had never dealt with children, so to
Sure.
speak. So when you talk about, okay, we want to make sure that there's an ROI for Barry,
Mhm.
everyone, this has to be a win-win.
Right.
But if there is a deal breaker, or if there is when we get to a point where, okay, what is the number one non-negotiable? It has to be what is creating great opportunities for our kiddos. Again, it's a win for you. It's a pipeline of talent.
Right.
It allows you to impact those students that may come to work for you, may not come to work for you, but it still grows that talent pool. But what creates the best opportunity for those students? And to me, that's what was most exciting about this Barry part, is when we did get to yes, and we hired a teacher, which, just being very honest, happened August 8th. And we started school August 7th. So there was a day of coverage in there.
But we have a video we'll show in a little bit, and you'll get to meet the teacher in that video, and we
rock
could
star.
not have done better.
Yeah, it is always people, not programs. You all know that. But when we talk about the opportunities that exist, if you could we talked about the size, just the
Mhm.
sheer size
Yeah.
of Barry, and how fortunate Evansville is to have your world headquarters here. What are some of those opportunities that exist within those? Like Robin ran through the 5 departments we're gonna have our students work through. What does a career in that line look like for students? I mean, you're in HR, so you know a little bit about all of them, but like all of those departments, what could a career for our students look like?
Sure. Yeah, all of the departments, I mean, the entire facility, it's an ecosystem, right? So everybody works together in those respective, fields and departments to make sure we're putting out, good quality product for our customers, right? So, for the student that chooses to go down the production operator road, they're going to be in the print room, working with the machines and other employees to make sure that blank molded containers are, going into the machines, that they are printing, the correct artwork and the correct colors and the correct quality, that, you see on a McDonald's cup or you see on a Starbucks cup. And then, once it goes through the machine, again, evaluating that piece was produced to the quality standard that Barry sets, and then packaging and getting it ready to go to the customer, right? Someone that's supporting and working in our ink lab, they're physically, mixing those inks, going through a process to ensure that those color palettes are correct, right? Branding is everything. As you know, we had to work through some branding issues.
Yes.
So making sure the correct colors are going into those machines. Quality assurance, there's a team of individuals, a department, that's constantly going around quality checking components, quality checking the amount of items that are in each box, and that they're going on the right pallet and they're going on the right trailer. There's just so much. And then there's the more technical aspect of it where, we have the print technicians and then our maintenance group where they're responsible for making sure that the machines are running at piece rate. So they're producing as many components as they're supposed to within the quality expectations. And then the maintenance groups that, are responsible for making sure the machines continue to run safely, have upgrades done to those. Of course, all of your fun automation, electrical skill sets that come along with that. But, it's just an ecosystem, and we all have to work together to make sure, we're putting out the product that's expected. So
So when you hear just the sheer size and all those departments now, everything works together. As we mentioned earlier, Jesse comes in a day after school
Teacher.
starts.
Yeah, Jesse,
Our
the teacher,
teacher,
yeah.
he's our instructor, with no box curriculum. So that was one of the barriers we were concerned with. Is okay, we're kind of throwing this guy to the wolves here. And Barry went above and beyond and said, "Hey, bring us the things that you have to teach.
Mhm.
These are the standards that we have to cover, and then how can we supplement that?" So, was it hard to get buy-in from the folks there to say, "Okay, we want you to come in and help us build curriculum for 16 and 17-year-olds"?
Not really. Everybody was very excited about it. And, you mentioned earlier, BJ, the Harrison Project, the forklift initiative. A large group of those folks were, all in from the get-go. We're
Yes.
very excited to be a part of it. So it was pretty easy to get buy-in from, our folks and then tailor and tweak those additional core concepts that we needed to kind of direct it in the Barry way, right? So
I guess what I've been most impressed by, I think, from you all at Barry has been it's not easy sometimes knowing how to talk to 16 and 17-year-olds.
sure.
I mean, that's not on your daily agenda of what you do. And it's amazing to me. I think you have the right people doing it because clearly all the students in there love the interactions that they have with Barry. And it's clear when the Barry people are in there, they know how to talk to 16 and 17-year-olds. And I don't know if that was an intentional on your part or it was a happy accident, but they really do know how to relate and talk to the students and really help them see a connection, like even to their stuff that they're doing, their courses at their homeschool. Like, this is why I'm taking this.
Sure.
They connect it really quick for them. Like, this is why you're taking the math you're taking, and sharing their own personal stories and their journey.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt we've got great people in
Mhm.
place to be able to help and be a resource in the program. But again, having those individuals on tap that helped with, the Harrison Project, and then some of the internships we've done
Mhm.
in collaboration with EVSC. They were already, kind of in that mindset through some of those initiatives. So it was pretty easy to, just kind of guide and go in this direction with this initiative. So,
And they say never ask a question you know the answer to. So I knew the answer to that question
Yeah.
because I've seen it every day.
Yeah.
I think it's also important to note that with the support that Barry gives our instructor, I won't say on a daily basis for certain, but I mean, your folks are in the classroom talking with our students, giving that real life connection to this is why you're learning this. This is why it's relevant. Then you can walk out the door. You see our classroom there. That's a group with the leadership team here, and you walk out the door and you're in the facility. You get to see what you were just learning about. You get to see it in action.
right.
And not only are they helping us with that, but that's a sacrifice on Barry's side. I mean, when you send us 3 or 4 people to be in our classroom for an hour or two, that they're not working at your facility
Sure.
during that time. So
Sure.
was that a hard sell too?
There was some definitely pieces of the puzzle you have to shift around and make sure we have coverage and the core expectations of running a business are met, right? But that's the great thing about Barry is they're always flexible to try something new and willing to adapt. And that's simply what we did in this situation. So
And I think that being civic minded, which you certainly are, is important. But also when you take on something like this, you from your side, I believe, you have to see this as a talent pipeline. Like, you are building tomorrow's employees,
Right.
and you're playing a role in that. You're no longer just a consumer of talent, know the secret handshake and come and try to get a job with us.
right.
Now you're helping us build that talent.
Right.
Well, and just as far as being civic minded, then we don't have the students sign any contract that says at the end of this partnership of
Right.
this 2 years that they're going to work at Barry after graduation. Of course, Barry is working with them on that, and they are going to work there part of their senior year. But being civic minded, they're actually helping with the pipeline for other people in our area or other industries.
Right. Manufacturing has huge potential career opportunity wise. So, that was our goal is we know not every student's going to come on board with us at the end of their 2-year program. But, if we could expose them to the manufacturing core concepts and principles and then the career opportunities, you can make a very good living working in manufacturing. And so, we just wanted to expose them to that. I think one other thing to go back to your point, BJ, was, we at one point we considered, do we have this on site at the Southern Indiana Career Technical Center? And clearly it didn't go that direction, and I'm glad, but that was one benefit of having the students on site at Berry as well, is get them into that mindset, that cultural kind of shift to prepare them for when they do graduate and they do go out into the workforce. Hopefully as a Berry employee, that they know the kind of expectations and they've kind of been molded to get ready for the real world.
And we found it's the education of the parents too. That's why we had that open house and invited all of the parents out and provided, you guys did a tour for them.
Right.
Luke, can we go back to that picture? I think it's a couple slides back of.
So we invited all of the parents out one evening with the students to offer a tour and just to explain what the program was, to have them meet some of the employees at Berry and the teacher that that their students would be interacting with, because this is a very new concept for parents. So we didn't want anyone to feel like their student was in a program that was going into quote unquote just manufacturing, just an operator program or something like that. We wanted to make sure they understood all that Berry was bringing to the table, showing them the different opportunities, speaking to them about tuition reimbursement, because sometimes, over the past several years, we're in a very college going mentality with our seniors and with parents, and there can be some pushback on that. And we wanted them to understand this didn't mean that students couldn't or wouldn't go to college, because there are plenty of jobs there that require that. And Berry will actually offer some tuition reimbursement for their employees.
And I think just the comfort that came, I mean, we have 24 students. I believe you selected 24 students.
Mm-hmm.
23 of those students and their families showed up. So that kind of speaks to the interest that was there. But it's important to just educate not only the students, which obviously we did with 60 applicants, but also those parents, to those, as you mentioned earlier, Brandon, just the career opportunities that exist. Becoming educated can happen in a lot of places in a lot of ways.
Right.
It can be what it is now in a facility. It can be sitting at a university.
Right.
Like, we want you, and just being honest, we don't push our kids in. We don't care what they pick.
Mm-hmm.
We just want them educated about their opportunities. Now, if we can go back, we kind of skipped over that part. It's the 1st of May. Robin calls the counselors and says, hey, we want to educate them on the program. We have 64, Robin. Did I get that right?
It was slightly over 60.
Yeah.
Because Robin is amazing at her job. She's unbelievable. I said we can't do it, and Robin got us 60 quality applicants in a week. And then what did that process look like on your side? So we bring you 60 students, which you've got a little bit of experience with, but not to this level.
Sure.
What does that look like? What are those conversations like on your side? Okay, how are we going to select them? What is important to us? How are we going to pick 25 of the 60?
I think it was getting to know the students. We kind of had a little bit of an insight as far as kind of what their academics look like. But, the big thing was, what was their mentality like? What was their attitude like? Were they willing to learn? What did they want to do long term? And again, there was some kids that said, yeah, I do want to go to college. There was some that said that they didn't. And, we had all kinds, that we moved forward with of both sides going into the program. To your point, Robin, it doesn't, college doesn't have to be a mandated thing, doesn't have to be a path to earning a good living, right? If you want to go down the road, later down the road, go and get your bachelor's or your associates, then you absolutely can. And, we have tuition reimbursement for that. But, those were the big pieces that we looked at, was just that they were willing to have an open mind, ask questions, learn, and be willing to fully commit to the program. Really, those were the core basics.
So we get to the 24 students that are selected. And And usually we have some attrition in any of these innovative model programs. What speaks to the quality of this program to me is the fact that we haven't lost any students.
Right.
I think they see the opportunities that exist in front of them.
Mm-hmm.
Robin talked earlier about even it gives you relevance to your education. I think is the most important part to me. We have an honors diploma student track that is in this coursework. He's like, and Dr. Smith asked him, our superintendent said, why do you enjoy this more so than the traditional classroom setting? And he said, it's because it's relevant to us. I understand why I'm learning what I'm learning here. And there were Berry employees in the room. Did I go back and I learned geometry and German, and those things are irrelevant to me. And your folks actually jumped online and said, you use geometry in here every day.
We have a large European presence.
So if you have the ability to speak German and do these things, you become even more of an asset to us.
Yeah, the look on that student's face was priceless when the Berry person hopped in and said, actually, here's why that is.
I think he wanted to go down the technical road, didn't he? And obviously,
that was in front of Dr. Jenner, I think, as well.
It was. Yeah. So Katie was in town. For that, we actually have a picture that we'll show you in a little bit. So when we get to funding, because everyone says, okay, this is great. Not everyone has a Fortune 300 company in their backyard.
Right.
So which we understand.
Right.
But this can look like, you can make it your own. I mean, the important part is to create opportunities to learn for your students, opportunities for growth for your students.
Yeah.
So when we talk about funding, because that's what everyone's question, how do you pay for it?
Right.
On the EVSC side, obviously transportation is one of our biggest costs, and staffing. So those are two things that we controlled. You mentioned earlier, our Career and Tech Center is very, very close to your facility, driver 8 iron from your facility. So we already had buses running from all of our high schools to the Career and Tech Center. So then we can just have the students get off of those buses from their traditional high schools, get on a single bus and come into your facility.
Right.
So those were the things that we worked through logistics wise that were a big ask on our side. So that transportation cost and funding a teacher is one of the biggest expenses for us.
Right.
Our superintendent, Dr. Smith, believes in this work. So that is very, very important to have that support from the top down.
We were fortunate enough to be the recipient of a 3E grant.
Yes.
Which did help pay for some equipment and some of the other things that we needed this year.
Forklift
simulator.
Yeah, we have the picture of Katie on that simulator. So thank you, DOE, for that. Brandon, on your side, what did that expense look like, and what are those ongoing expenses on your side?
And it may not be something that everybody has to deal with, but the classroom was the biggest challenge for us financially because we just didn't have the space. We didn't have a classroom setting or an office space setting or a conference room, whatever you want to call it, that we could comfortably house 25 to 30 students. So we had to secure some funding to build that classroom. But it was nice because we could kind of tailor it to how we needed it, right, for this program. So, it's got a couple of TVs and whiteboards and things like that you all were able to help with, and but we were able to kind of tailor it to the needs at hand, right? So that was the biggest expense. I mean, all in with that, I think we were around $75,000. Again,
PPE was another.
PPE, safety, composite steel toe shoes, your hard hat, bump caps, glasses, ear protection, eye protection, all of
and you provide all of that to our students at no cost to the student.
Correct. Yep. Correct.
And also the structure was built load bearing, which was an additional cost for you, just with hopes of scaling this at some point.
Right. If we need to, and hopefully we do, we have the opportunity to build up on top of the existing.
They weren't giving us any more floor space in the warehouse.
No, they were not willing to give it up, were they? But so luckily, that's a very real opportunity in the future that if we need to, increase capacity, if we need another classroom, if we get that many interested folks and we can handle it, that's a real opportunity for us.
So if we have 5 minutes left here.
We want to show the video. We want to do seeing is believing. We want to show the video.
Robin, one piece of advice for everyone right here. One line.
You got to get it started. I mean, it can be messy. Like, we didn't have it all figured out. That's 100%
Gotta
sure.
jump
We
in.
did
And
not
we
have it.
still don't.
But
Yeah.
if you wait for all of those things to be figured out, you'll never get it started. You
Right.
just gotta, if you've got a willing participant, which Barry was, they clearly wanted to do this. We wanted to do it. We knew it was best for the kids. You just do it. You just get in there and you figure out any little bump, you figure it out.
Brandon, anything to add to that? Just if you could give one piece of advice to just
Yeah, no, just you know, like Robin said, you just got to start somewhere, start the process, and you know, once I think we started pulling on the strings, you know,
Yeah.
it started coming together, you know, relatively easier and easier. You know, yeah, there was speed bumps and hurdles and things to overcome. That's going to be with any project, right? But you know, you just got to get started on it.
love it. Luke, if you can pull the video, you can hear from some of our kiddos and the instructor. And then after that, we will go to questions if there is any.
What attracted me to get out of the classroom from what I see in everyday regular school and get into something that more is my type of thing. I like working with my hands, and coming to the Berry program was more of a hands-on thing. I got to learn stuff. We're gonna get to job shadow and stuff like that. I can't wait for that because I get to experience it out in the field compared to sitting in the class all day.
The nice thing about this program is it's a collaboration for real life work experience as well as educational opportunities, focusing on our partnership with the Evansville Vanderburgh School Corporation and Berry Global Corporation. The students are going to learn real world practical experience, as well as classroom training and insight to how manufacturing and specifically plastics manufacturing works in the marketplace.
So my counselor at Bossy, she informed me that this would be a great job opportunity for me. Currently, I'm working in fast food and I want to get into a better business with better job opportunities and more experience. And Berry is a good place for me to kind of bounce around with different opportunities, different positions, and the pay seems really well.
I really enjoyed it so far. I've learned quite a bit. I'm most intensive. Now we've been doing fork truck training. I've enjoyed quite a bit of it. I can't wait till I turn about 18. I can start working here. I'm really excited for next year. I mean, I can't be stuck at a desk for the rest of my life. I need to be more hands-on with the job, and I feel like this opportunity would be really great for me.
The opportunities that we have here at Berry Global for the Berry Link crew, printing, maintenance, production operators out on the floor, QA. We have a printing ink lab where we mix our inks to match colors the customers want. So we're going to give them opportunities to work in all those departments and make money on their senior year.
The students that we select to move forward in the Berry Link program will go through a recruiting and interview process. The students that we move forward with, we're looking for several things there, but mainly just having good attitude, have good academics, but be willing to learn and be willing to, you know, experience new things. Those 4 areas are going to set any individual up for success long term, and that's what we want to help be a part of.
We've discussed everything from checking accounts to payroll to health insurance to medical costs, everything that ties into the real life experience and stuff they're going to get outside of when they get out of school and when they get the real life. And I think being in this setting really brings that to life for them, and they get to see everything that goes through and the opportunities they get to ask questions to the employers. We have Berry employees come in that are doing the on-hand training. And they're experiencing that, and they take this. They'll come back into the classroom and say, "Hey, Mr. Simmons, I went to a job interview yesterday. Everything that I did with my resume, the job interview experiences, all helped with the process of getting a job afterwards and going through." So, and they're seeing the concept of, if I take this to college, if I take this to the real life, to the world, they're having all these opportunities right there in front of them.
What attracted me to the Berry?
So that is a commercial we made that we use to not only educate students and parents, just kind of promote our program. We hope that you kind of enjoyed seeing it in action. Amanda, I know we only have a couple of minutes left. Are there questions or things that we didn't hit that you would like us to?
I'm not seeing any questions right now in the chat, but we'll give just a minute here if anybody wants to add anything. Gosh, how fortunate are you to have this in Evansville? Yeah, I
We
mean,
don't take that
amazing.
for granted. We know how
Yeah.
fortunate we are to have a partner, one of the quality and just sheer size, limitless opportunities for our kids.
Yes.
But also like so bought in, like truly doing this. And again, I don't want you to do it because you're civic minded, because I know when things get tough, the first things that go are those things that you do because you're civic minded. They also see this, not only they want to help students, but they also see this as a development. I mean, it's an asset to them.
Sure.
So that's what's fortunate. And we do not take for granted the fact that we have amazing companies here who buy in, go in full force on our kiddos, and we know how lucky we are.
It's amazing. And it'll be interesting to see how many students are interested and apply as you get in a couple of years, and as word of mouth spreads and students realize like, oh my gosh, what a great opportunity. So I'm sure it will continue to grow.
Yeah, we're getting ready to interview for cohort 2 in January.
About a month away. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exciting.
When do applications open for that? Are they applying right now or?
Well, so the unique thing I think at this point is we actually don't use an application for this. We put it out to the students and with the instructions, if they're interested, to let their counselor know, and their counselor explains that it's an interview process. And so they get them on the list to come out and interview.
And they interview with Barry, like the selection process, the selection of the students is done. EVSC has some input as far as educating them on the students, behavior, academics, all of that stuff. But the final decision's made by who gets in the program by the industry partner, by Barry Global, which is unique, but also I think that's one of the best parts about it.
Because the application, we didn't want that to feel to the student like a barrier, like, oh, I'm not going to fill it out, I won't get accepted anyway. This way they can just express some interest and then go talk to Barry.
Yeah, that's great. And what an opportunity for them to get to go through an interview process. Help prepare them for later on. That's amazing. That's great.
We had that conversation this morning. I actually asked Brandon, I was like, hey, we may have 100 applicants this year. Do you want us to filter them before we bring them to you? And he said, no, even if we don't select them, I feel like there's a value to them to going through this interview process, which was a great point in what you just said as well.
Right.
That's great. Yeah, absolutely. Good. And the importance of, we hear this all the time, and as counselors, we hear this all the time, but the importance of those social skills, those employability skills, the responsibility, the importance of attendance, being on time, and all of that. Those are things that clearly sounds like are highly stressed, and they're learning these things on the job. Even more so than that academic component. Yes, they need to have those basic academic pieces in place, of course, but more importantly is their willingness to learn, their engagement, their attendance, that responsibility piece, I'm sure the teamwork piece, collaboration, all of that. So it's awesome. What a great opportunity for your students.
Yes.
Love it. Well, thank you for sharing today and for your time. Really appreciate it. I am going to drop into the chat now just a link for anybody who wants to fill out a very brief evaluation, and you can also get a professional growth plan point for attending today's session. And then finally, I just have in the last few slides a few upcoming events from Counselor Connect. So check them out. Many of them are linked here. There are a couple things that are not, registration is not yet open, but will be in the very near future. So take a look at what's coming in January after the holiday season. And then if you want to go ahead and go on, we just released a podcast episode last Friday. This is a new special series that we are hosting, where we have 2 counselor leaders who are going to be responding to questions from those in the field around how to best support students, specifically student wellness, social emotional learning support, and things of that nature. So feel free to submit your question and have a listen to the very short session that was just recently posted last week. And then finally, here's just some contact information. And thank you all again for being here to share your awesome program with us and counselors and administrators around the state. And we look forward to seeing everybody very soon. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.